All right, let me start off with Keith. Is this the best lineup in baseball?
Well, it's certainly right right there. I would put it above the top five. I would think it's better than that. I do like the lineup a lot. I think it was critical that Alonso was re-signed. I think that if you brought in Soto, who, I had dinner with Rizzo, the general manager of the Nationals in Florida one night, and he said that Soto's the best offensive player in the game, even over Ohtani. So that's high praise right there. And he's got a record to back it up. But if they hadn't brought Pete back, it just would have been a trade-off. And what's unique about it too, not unique, what's good about it is that you got a left-hand hitter and a right-hand hitter in that middle of that lineup. Well, it's not really the middle of the lineup. It's two and three. It's very formidable. They're a little weakened with the injuries at the bottom half. Some question marks about Beatty, but is he gonna? He's had a great spring. This is another opportunity for him. But I think this lineup is formidable, and it doesn't give pitchers a chance to take a deep breath.
Ronnie, how does this lineup stack up against the '86 Met lineup?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know, that '86 Mets lineup. They just knew how to score runs, man. They were, they could hit it out of the ballpark, but they could also small ball you. So they could do a lot of little things that teams don't even think about today. So that '86 lineup is proven. So it went to a place where this team wants to go. So I would say Soto, and I'll agree with Keith and then Rizzo. Soto is one of the finest hitters I've ever seen. I said last year I was doing a game in the postseason. How do you get a guy out who seemingly doesn't have any holes? That's kind of where he's at. You're only as good as the pitches you swing at, and he doesn't swing at bad pitches. That makes it tough.
Hey, Gary, from your observations of Soto, do you think Pete Alonso's single season Mets home run record is in jeopardy, 53?
No, I don't think about Soto in those terms. I mean, he had 41 last year playing at Yankee Stadium. I don't think he'll hit as many home runs this year as he did last year. His ability is the ability to get on base in every situation and then provide punctuation. I mean, the fact that he has more walks through his age 25 season than anybody in history is what separates him. And that's what Ronnie's talking about. The fact that he will not swing at pitches he can't hit. Um, I mean, he's a phenomenal hitter. He's an all fields hitter, but I don't think that he's going to be a home run hitter. Not the way Pete Alonso hit 53. I think Alonso's a lot more likely to hit 50 than Soto is
Why? Why do you say that?
because he's done it before.
And he has Soto hitting in front of him?
Yeah, that helps. I mean, it's a deep lineup, and I honestly believe, and it's almost hard to fathom how much the home run that Pete hit against Devin Williams in October last year meant. I think you can make the argument that if he does not come through in that spot, that he might not be a Met today. But I also think that it took an enormous burden off his shoulders after what had been for him a down season. And you saw what he did in the postseason from that point on. I just think it took an enormous burden off of him. And even though he's in a similar situation contract-wise this year, where he can be a free agent again at the end of the season, I just think that it took him to a different level. And I think he can go back now to being more of what we saw over the first few years of his career, being a consistent hitter who is always a threat to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Keith, May 16th, Soto returns to Yankee Stadium. What do you think his reception will be?
What he got yesterday. I mean, it'll be the same thing. He'll be booed, and you know what? It'll bring out the best. I was booed in St. Louis, and you always that just makes you more determined to go in there and kill them. You know, be a guy that beats them on the 3-game or 4-game or 2-game series. So it'll be a lot of fun. I think I read the paper today. David Cohen said it's going to be great theater, and I agree. It's going to be wonderful. I mean, you've got, for once, the Mets have stolen a star from the Yankees. Oh my gosh, this is great.
Didn't they do that when they got Hal Reniff? Sorry.
You know, Alonso needs 27 home runs to pass Darryl Strawberry on the Mets single season all-time home run record. I would think you guys think that's doable.
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, I mean, it's more than doable. He's hit at least that many in every full season that he's played. I think it's inevitable that Pete is going to be the Mets' all-time home run leader. That was the case from the day that he re-signed. And I think that it was a big incentive for Pete, and I think it was a big incentive for the Mets to re-sign him. I think that it's a wonderful historic note. You know, the Mets have never been known for sluggers. They've had them for, periods of time, Strawberry, Piazza. But Pete is on a different level. He's the best slugger the Mets have ever had, and it will be his righteous spot atop the home run list when he gets there.
Ron, what about the contract pressure on Pete Alonso this year?
Yeah, I feel it's much different than it was last year because he does have a contract for more than 1 year if he chooses to do that. So that gives him a little bit of safety net. Is he going to opt out after this year? I'm sure he will. And I'm sure he's going to have a huge year. He's going to be standing at the plate with Lindor and Soto on base a lot this year. He's going to have opportunities to drive in 150 runs if he has a big year. That could happen. Soto scored 128 runs last year. And Lindor, of course, we know what he can do. I think it's going to be an unbelievable season for Pete, which is going to necessitate the opting out. But I don't think Gary intimated it before. I don't think that he's going to feel any of the heat that he felt last season. It seemed palpable from the booth. I don't know if that's true or not, but it did feel like there was some pressing going on to really, have a 5 home run game to get back to where he needed to be, and that's kind of natural for anyone that's a free agent. That happens to more. It happens more often than not than the guy who throws up the perfect year. So I think he's going to be relaxed. He's going to go back to doing what he does. And, since he made his debut, only judges hit more home runs and no one's driven in more. That says a little bit about Pete.
Pete, how would you feel about Lindor being named captain?
Well, it's not like hockey where there's so much importance on captaincy. My feeling is with Soto here, and although this is a real tight group, they like each other. They've welcomed Soto. Soto has fit right in. It's a good group. I would defer it a year and let Soto get his feet wet. Let's not give the press, the media, any opportunity to try to stir up some stuff like in between. Like when we got Carter in '85, that was the same thing. Was Hernandez and Carter going to get along, and I was going to make sure that didn't happen. And it didn't. So I would defer for the year and then make a decision next year. That's what I would do.
How
I
did you
think it
make
also
sure?
I think that also negates the impact of Brandon Nimmo. I mean, I think that in a clubhouse where Lindor was Lindor and there was no Nimmo, I think it would be more likely that Francisco would be named captain. But Brandon has taken on a lot of the leadership role in that clubhouse as well. So um, I think that probably mitigates against anybody being named captain.
Well, Keith, how did you make sure that there was no controversy?
I welcomed Gary. He was a teammate. Now, Gary was not a guy that was well liked around the league. When he was on top of his game in Montreal, Gary had that flamboyance and that kind of ticked off the opponents. And so he's coming over now. He's joining our team. He is no longer the enemy. He is part of our tribe here, our group, and was a critical part. Much like what Soto is going to be for this club. It's just really you can draw the comparison between getting Carter and getting Soto, but you're getting a much younger Soto. So what I did, to your point, I always go off in tangents. Gary's probably smirking right now, but uh, I welcomed him, and he was part of the team, and we were here to win. That's the bottom line. And you don't have to get along with everybody. And I got along with Gary. I can tell you in my 17 years there was only around 5 guys that I disliked. I don't like the word hate; it's too much. That I disliked. Over 17 years, that's a small, minuscule percentage.
Well, we'll name the 5 guys. Come on.
Art Fern.
Oh,
All right. All right. Ron, Ron Vientos. Vientos had a breakout year last year. What should Met fans expect from Mark Vientos this year, batting cleanup when Nimmo is not?
yeah, well, I think they're going to expect the same, right? He's such a great story. It's not like you were expecting Vientos to just come up and do what he did. There were many kind of speed bumps for him, and that he was able to, as a young player, kind of navigate those speed bumps, navigate being sent back and forth. Um, the team, the organization, had identified another player as the player that was going to get the first shot at the position. So he kind of had to bite his tongue and play hard and do what he had to do in AAA. But I do remember early in the season when he hit that walk-off home run, and I think he was sent down the next day. And they can't be any bigger heartache, I would think, for a player than that high, and then the low of having to go to the manager's office and being sent to AAA, Syracuse, and that he navigated all of that and withstood all of that, and then came back and had the season he did. The way he handled himself with the veterans and listening to any nugget that J.D. Martinez and others would give him that would help his game. He just was the consummate young professional, in my estimation, on just really trying to make sure he checked all the boxes, worked hard, and did everything he could do. And he was rewarded with an amazing season and even a better postseason. So the Mets fans are going to expect exactly what they had last year. For Mark, he knows it's going to be a difficult second full year is always a trying time, but he's been through it already, so I think he'll handle it well.
Did Nimmo celebrate the Yankees' relaxation of facial hair by growing his beard?
I think it was a holdover from the postseason. A lot of them were playoff beards, kind of a hockey tradition more than a baseball tradition. But he said his wife liked it. They had a baby during the winter. That it's going to stay. So
What about
he didn't have he didn't have to go to management and threaten them like Devin Williams did.
Okay, all right. What about Francisco Alvarez? how invaluable is he, and can Torrens hold the fort in the meantime until Alvarez returns? Anybody?
Ronnie, take it.
Okay, sure. Well, I'm a fan of Luis Torrens. He's done nothing but good things since he's been in the Mets uniform. So I expect him to play and play at a high level. Maybe not provide all the pop that Alvarez provides, but he's a capable hitter. He's a smart hitter, knows kind of what to do to hit the ball the other way and other things like that, and an impeccable arm and release. Should negate some of that running game that tends to hamper the Mets. Alvarez, remember when he was hurt last year, that really hurt the Mets. They missed him. But Torrens got some big hits in that time. I remember a game in London, in fact, against the Phillies. So Torrens is a really good backup that now is a number one. And as far as Alvarez is concerned, he's going to start the season hurt, but he's starting to get into those seasons where we're waiting for him to do his thing. I think he has worked incredibly hard on his defense. I think he's improved himself as a defensive player. But what was going to separate him is that he not only would be a very capable defensive player, but that he was going to be one of the best young catching prospects in the game. That has not happened yet. We're waiting for that.
Keith, what did you observe about Brett Beatty this spring?
Well, he's swinging the bat good, that's for sure. He's always had a nice, fluid swing. A lot of the times when you're a young player, I struggled, and it's all mental. You lose confidence, and when you lose confidence at the plate, everything speeds up. The pitcher seems like he's throwing 150 miles an hour, and when you're in that kind of frame of mind, and I don't know what's inside Brett's head. I'm just relating my experience. You're kind of in trouble if you go up there and you're not confident. And the reason why you're not confident is because they're getting you out. And so everybody the players that have made it today, I feel everybody gets to the Rubicon, and some cross it and most don't. So how do you cross the Rubicon? You get your opportunity and you get base hits and you perform, and everything relaxes. Vientos saying how he came this spring much more relaxed. I can totally relate to that. Coming to spring, having to impress the manager, every at bat is so important. Every play in the field, every base running, you want to make the ball club. When you've got the ball club made, the weight of the world's off your shoulder. You do your work. You know you're going to be in the lineup, and it's a big, like I said, a big load off. So he's got to go out there and do it. He's going to have an opportunity. He's going to play, and he's going to get another chance.
Gary, Mets fans were excited when Acuna was acquired. What's holding him back?
I think he's still learning how to hit and how to control his aggression. I think that he obviously came up last year and had some immediate success offensively. But for most of the season he was struggling in AAA, and the Mets people felt as though he was still pretty immature as a hitter, not quite sure of what to swing at and what not to. And I think he was a little more disciplined for whatever reason when he came up. Um, I think we saw a little bit of a regression this spring. I was not impressed with the way that he was making his decisions at the plate, but he's a wonderful defensive player and he gives you some speed. And I think he'll be on the short side of the platoon until McNeil comes back, and he'll have a chance to make another impression. Um, I think he's an incredibly talented player. He's never going to be the power hitter that his brother was, but I think he's got a similar swing, and he has a similar level of aggression. But because he doesn't have as much power as Ronald does, I think he needs to calm down a little bit. And I think that's what the Mets are hoping for from him this year.
Pete, DH, Winker and Marte. What are your thoughts on the DH combo?
It's a nice platoon. That's my feeling. You got two veteran hitters right there, and they've been when the first day that in spring that Mendy put out what was really going to be before McNeil got hurt, the starting lineup, and played at a spring game. We were doing it on SNY, and I just said, "Oh man, this is before Alvarez got hurt." I said, "This is a veteran lineup and pretty and very deep." So they are. I'm glad they brought Winker back. Winker is a character, and I think a good guy in the clubhouse. Um, and Marte's very quiet and uh, distant, but he's a consummate professional. He can play, he can hit, and it's just a matter of his health. Um, but it gives a good right left DH. What more can you ask for? I think that's one of the best combos in the game.
Ron, what are your thoughts about the void left by Iglesias? OMG.
Well, it's interesting that you guys were talking about Winker because Gary and I were on the field a couple of days ago. We were talking about there were two players that really wanted to come back and that the fans really wanted them to come back. And the Mets signed one of them, Winker. And the other one, Iglesias, of course, made the team. Congratulations to him in San Diego. I don't know if they get where they want to go without Jose Iglesias last year. You know, the thing about baseball that's unlike basketball or maybe the quarterback position in football is that, you know, one player can't make the difference. You can have a group of players, which means you're going to win, but you have to have a team to kind of try to go for championships. And Iglesias was that kind of guy. He was a great team guy. And, but, you know, it's a lot of times we talk about team guys. We're talking about a guy that, you know, gets a big hit occasionally, is a good cheerleader. He wasn't none of that. I mean, he was a cheerleader. But he was hitting close to 400 for most of the time he was with the Mets at the beginning. Clutch hits, great two-strike hits. You know, his glove work, we know he might not reach balls that he did early in his career, but if he gets to them, they're outs. And I mean, I've never played with a guy who got 3 hits and then had a concert after the game. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was one of the most amazing seasons, and it's one that Jose and Met fans are going to remember for the rest of their lives. I mean, that was one of the most remarkable journeys for a journeyman that I've ever seen, and it'll always be remembered.
Steve, let me just add one thing. I think the Mets are going to lose defensively by not having him. Mendy has lost the option now. We saw a lot with McNeil can play both corner outfield positions, and you had Iglesias at second base, who he played a second base that in my years in baseball I haven't seen. I mean, he had great hands, was alert in the field. And then late in the ball game, it allowed to pull McNeil out of the outfield, put him at second base, move Iglesias to third, take Vientos out in those 1-run, 2-run games in the 8th, 9th inning. That's gone now. So I think that is a negative in my view. I was very hopeful that they would bring Iglesias back.
At
Gary,
the same time, I think that, you know, you have to remember that one season is not necessarily the same as the season before. And as an organization, the Mets have an enormous number right now of middle of the diamond, young athletic players who they need to give some runway. And that, you know, now includes Beatty, who's become a middle infielder out of necessity, but Acuna and Jet Williams and Ronnie Mauricio and Drew Gilbert, and they've got more coming up through the pipeline. And David Stearns is very conscious of providing some runway for those young players. And that's what the decision on Iglesias involved. And whether that hurts the Mets in a certain respect, I think it enhances their ability to work their younger players into their future.
Gary, very importantly, is there any truth to the rumor that Grimace was actually Jay Horwitz?
There's a small resemblance, but I am not at liberty to divulge that. You know, last year was magical I mean, I've always talked about 1999 as being my favorite year for the Mets because they'd been in the wilderness for a decade, and they had all manner of incredible comebacks, and they had a great vibe to them. But last year outdid every season I can ever remember, just in terms of the magic that you felt once the Mets got their season turned around, and that included Grimace and the other memes, Seymour Wiener and the dog and Max, and there was so many of those kind of interesting viral things that seemed to propel the Mets, and Iglesias was part of that too. Um, this team certainly achieved far more than anybody could have expected when they got off to such a horrific start. This year's going to be different. It may be a more talented team this year. That it doesn't mean they're going to have the same magic, and that's why baseball's so fascinating because it's such a long season, and so many things need to play out before you know what's going on.
Ron, what
Jay's
about
head.
yep,
Jay's head is bigger than Grimace's. That's how you knew it wasn't Grimace.
Jay's head? Yeah. Um, what about Ron? What about Clay Holmes making the transition to starter? You were a reliever and you bounced around in 1990, I believe, right? Between starting and
Yeah,
relieving.
yeah. The end of my time with the Mets, I bounced around, and they were hoping to bounce me out of there. Just could never find any takers. But I think with Clay Holmes, I admire him because to make that transition, he's been one of the better relievers, and I know last season kind of lost his position towards the end of the year. Um, but he's been one of the best relievers in the game, and most players would like to be where they feel most comfortable. And he's taken on this role, and as soon as he signed the contract with the Mets, he got after it, and he was the first one down in spring training, and it showed itself in spring training where he was their best pitcher. ERA under one, WHIP about .75. I mean, all the numbers, and the strikeouts. 23 of them, a huge number for spring training. So, you know, everything is positive. He's got with the new kick change and other pitches, cutter, high fastball to go along with his patented sinker. He's got the entire repertoire to get hitters out, and uh, I would think that that's going to continue into the season. His only issue, and we've seen this happen in the last couple of years, relievers that have become starters, is how far can they go? Guys used to getting up once, now has to get up and down 6 times. How many innings can he pitch? I think his high is 70 plus. They're looking for 150. Um, if he pitches 150 innings, it'll be an unbelievable year for the Mets and for Clay Holmes. But that's the
Well,
unknown. Whenever you take a guy to the bullpen.
what about Senga? He wants to pitch 162 pitches. That's his
Oh, I
optimistic
thought you
view.
said.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Senga returning to 2023 form?
But it's just health with Senga. Watching him in spring training, he's still got the same stuff he had 2 seasons ago when he had a breakout season. I would expect the same. It's just health with him and his ability to maybe occasionally pitch when he doesn't feel 100%. And what I mean by that is, I think he's one of those pitchers that it's really important for him to have his mechanics and everything right before he goes out there. And that's, that is a place that a lot of players would love to be. There's also a responsibility to you and your teammates and the organization that you get out there. And there are some days that you're not going to have the mechanics you want. You're not going to have maybe the 100% health you want. But he's so good that they're always a better team if he's on the mound. So he makes 28 plus starts. That puts them in a much better position because he's really being asked because he didn't pitch much last year to replace the innings and the work of Severino, and Severino was pretty darn good last year.
just quickly, Ron, just very quickly. McGill, Canning, Peterson, the rest of the rotation, each one. Just McGill, very quickly. What are your thoughts on him?
Okay, well, with Miguel, he's had numerous opportunities. He's had some really good games that he'd like to throw away. Consistency really is what he needs to find. Canning, I think, is going to really benefit from being in a new league, a new division, new people to face. He showed a lot in spring training as well, including a new changeup that should bode him well. And as far as David Peterson, I think he showed last year what he could do. Big outs he got out of the pen late in the year in the postseason. That this is going to be the breakout season for Peterson. He's a number one pick. There's high expectations in his entire career. He meets them this year.
Now, how about Brandon Sproat?
Well, Brandon Sproat is in a position, when I watch him pitch, he reminds me a little bit of Spencer Strider. Same kind of body type, real strong legs, throws in the upper 90s. He has an amazing future ahead of him. But I like that the Mets are kind of treating him like the Mets used to treat young pitchers in the 80s, and that let him have a full, productive, great season in AAA. So when he comes up, he never goes down again. That he's ready to be Brandon Sproat, maybe one of the bright young arms in the game.
Heath, what's the feeling in the booth when Edwin Diaz comes into the game?
I always look to see his command and his velocity. For some, and he can get hot up and away. He drops down in his delivery and doesn't. I mean, Ronnie knows more about this than me, but when he goes more three quarters instead of over the top, that's when I think his fastball goes up and away and he starts hanging that slider. If he could come back and have the year he had a couple of years ago where he was, I mean, I have never seen a closer, and I've seen a lot of great closers have a year that he had where he was just, and Ronnie will probably laugh, some of his pitches were unhittable. He was that good. And if that can come back, boy, what a lift it would be for the ball club. Everybody's kind of overlooking it right now, but your closer is very important in today's game. And if you don't have a closer, then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble.
I thought you were going to mention the trumpet. You didn't even mention the trumpet.
Oh,
the trumpet.
Well, that's getting a little tired, isn't it?
Not to him, I guess.
No.
All right. What about Gary? What about the rest of the bullpen? What are your thoughts on the getting to Diaz?
Well, getting AJ Minter was a huge pickup, and it appears as though he is fully healthy. He pitched 2 of the last 3 games in spring. They were concerned about his ramp up because he got a late start coming off hip surgery. He had very much the same surgery that David Peterson had, and we saw how well Peterson came back from his. And Minter said that hip had been bothering him for 3 or 4 years, and he just pitched through it. And so now he has the freedom of movement, and he can be devastating against lefties and righties because of that cutter that he throws. To me, the key to the bullpen is Daniel Nunez. When he came up last year, for the 2 months that he was healthy, he was the best pitcher the Mets had. Kid who came out of nowhere. He was a 28-year-old rookie last year. And obviously had some arm problems late in the year, and they've gone slow with him, and they're going to start him in the minor leagues, but he should be back fairly early. And to me, he is the difference maker. I mean, Jose Butto proved himself last year. They certainly have enough arms in that bullpen to be effective. But Nunez to me is the difference maker. If he's healthy and can deliver what he did last year, that makes that bullpen deep and solid.
Heath, what are your thoughts on the bench, the Mets bench?
Well, the injuries always hurt your bench, and you've got two guys out on the offensive, and Alvarez and McNeil. So that hurts your bench whenever you have injuries. And so you've got Luis Angel now that's, instead of having more of that's the dog. Sorry. Um, you got a younger bench, but anytime you have, like I said, anytime you have injuries, it affects the bench. The DH changes a lot of things too with the bench. You don't need that big a bench because you've got a designated hitter. You're not taking a pitcher out in the third, fourth inning if he's getting, middle of the innings, and bringing in a bench player, flip-flopping the lineup. Those days are over now with the DH, which I don't.
Gary, what about your thoughts on overall team speed?
Well, I mean, the Mets are not a burner team, but they added Jose Siri, who can run. Acuna, while he's there, obviously is a fast player. Tyrone Taylor has the best foot speed of anybody on the team. And Lindor and Nimmo can run, but I think because you're trying to keep those guys on the field every day, I don't, especially with Brandon coming off the foot and the knee problems, I don't think he's going to be doing as much running as he did last year. So, they're an adequate team speed kind of team, but they're certainly not going to be stealing 200 bases this year.
Yeah. Ronnie, what about overall team defense with no Iglesias this year?
That's a good question. I think that is maybe the only question mark when I look at the Mets team is how well they're going to play defensively. Soto in right field. You've got Siri who can go get him. Tyrone Taylor, I love in center field. I think he's just a wonderful, if he's your fourth outfielder, whatever role he plays. Siri is a very electric defensive player. Nimmo might be hampered or slowed by the leg issues. But when I look in the infield with Pete and Beatty and Vientos, adequate defensive players, but Lindor is the glue. And when they take the field, they're two above, like above average, or even higher than that, are two people really, Luis Torrens and Lindor. That's really it. So how they catch the ball with this pitching staff is going to be interesting to watch the first month of the season.
Keith, what would you say Carlos Mendoza's strengths are as a manager?
I like the way he manages the game as a field general tactician. But I think his strength is that he communicates well with the players. And in today's game, when we played, we never saw the game manager. We never saw Frank Cashin or Bing Devine when I was with St. Louis. Frank would come down and have a meeting every Sunday in Davy's office, and he'd walk through the clubhouse. And you just didn't have that kind of communication. And that's a part of the game that's changed. It's important to communicate with today's players. And Mendy does a good job. And what I like about Mendy is if someone is sloughing off, he'll let them know. I mean, he is in command. He is the skipper of that team, and they respect him. And that's, I think he's terrific. I mean, when he came over, he was, this is his first opportunity. What he went through last year, that month of May, and he kept a straight face, that same positive attitude. That was impressive. And that month, let me tell you, I've never seen a team find a way to lose, a different way to lose, day in, day out, like they did in that May. It was just a terrible month, and he had to go through that. And look what happened, the best record from June on, right, in MLB.
All right, each one of you, whoever wants to go first, the division. How do you see the division race?
Well, I think there are three outstanding teams. I mean, the Braves went through a lot of injury problems last year and still were able to prevail. They should get Strider back fairly early in the season. And if they don't have the rash of injuries that they had last year, they should be a better team. Their catching situation is going to be a problem early on. They're going to have a rookie, Drake Baldwin, catching, and that's going to be iffy. So we'll see how that works out. The Phillies got better. I mean, adding Jesus Luzardo to that rotation gives them the strongest rotation in the division. But their window of opportunity is closing. Schwarber and Turner and Harper are starting to, and Real Muto, they're starting to get a little bit older. So this is a huge year for the Phillies to take another step forward. And the Mets are right there with them. The Nats could be better this year because of all their young talent and not win any more games because the division is so hard. And the Marlins, this may be the worst Marlins team of all that we've seen over the last decade. So, it's going to be a fascinating race because you've got three excellent teams, one team on the rise, and one team that is going to be cannon fodder.
Ron, Keith?
Yeah, I feel the same way as Gary. Loved prize fighting when I was a kid, so I'm a belt guy. The Phillies have the belt, so I'll give it to them. With that rotation they're going to have, I think they're the best team in the division on paper right now. But all three teams, you wouldn't be surprised if any of the three teams won the division. That's how good they all are. That's how close they all are. And the Nationals will be a problem in a couple of years. I think James Wood is going to be an outstanding hitter in this league. He reminds me of a few hitters I pitched against later in my career. Garrett Anderson being one of them. And then the Marlins could have a White Sox year. I mean, they are. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say, but I mean, we watched them all during spring training. The Mets only play 4 teams, it seems, in spring training. So we saw them. They're just a very young team, and they're trying to figure out their way. And it's that team really. The only reason to watch them is it's the race to get Sandy Alcantara. I mean, that's who's going to get him in the midway part of the season. Mets, Braves, and Phillies. You wouldn't be surprised if either of them won, and it's going to be quite a battle.
Keith?
There's not much for me to add there. I kind of agree with both Gary and Ron. I think the most question marks are with the Braves and certainly the Phillies with that rotation. I think that they realize that their back half of their lineup, they had some injuries last year there, but you get past that first half of the lineup, it kind of dwindles down. You got people you can go and get out. So this adding of the pitching, the rotation, pitching is the name of the game. It always has been and always will. When you run starters out there and you got 4 starters that are solid, you're going to be there. So I think Philly, the fact that they've been the defending champs, and I think that they're maybe top of the list, but the Mets are right there, and anybody it's a toss-up here.
Keith, are you surprised to learn that Vegas has the Mets with a higher win number than the Yankees? 90.5 for the Mets, 88.5 for the Yankees. Does that surprise you?
Well, that's the first I've heard of that. I don't follow that. Well, the Yankees have had a ton of injuries, right? In spring, they've got some people that are down, so I'm not surprised by that at all.
I mean, losing Garrett Cole was an enormous blow for that team. And then to have Luis Hill out for half the season and they lose Clark Schmidt at the beginning. I mean, their rotation after you get past Fried and Rodon is going to be a big question mark. And really their bullpen, once you get past their top 2 relievers, Williams and Weaver, is going to be a big question mark as well. So, where they get their innings from is going to be huge. And, they need to figure out whether Paul Goldschmidt is the Goldschmidt of the second half last year or the first half. He's 37 now. How much support is Judge going to have in that lineup? Is Cody Bellinger going to try and retool his swing again to be a pull hitter at Yankee Stadium? They've got a lot of question marks. So I can certainly understand why the Mets would be expected to have a few more wins than the Yankees.
So, Ron, with Soto on board, does that mean that this can be a Mets town?
Well, I don't, I've lived in New York a long time. I wouldn't call myself a New Yorker, so I don't know how important that is, or even if it's true. I mean, I remember when Keith and I played for the Mets, you would hear that talk that the Mets were that Manhattan was a Mets town now. I mean, I don't know anything about that. I do know that they took an amazing, great player who was on the Yankees and now he's on the Mets. That's a big coup, and that they've assembled a lineup of stars, and that's what sells in New York. People want to come see Lindors and Sotos and Alonsos and Nimos at all. So I don't want to compare them to the Yankees. All I do know is that Steve Cohen and David Stearns and the group have put together a team that, if you're a fan, you want to come see. And you saw that in spring training when the Mets set a record for attendance. They've never had more people come to spring training games than they did this past year.
Keith, is this World Series bust for the Mets?
Say that again.
Is this World Series or bust for the Mets?
Well, there'll be another season next year. The curtain's not going to fall. If they don't make it, it'll be disappointing. I do feel like I can draw comparisons to our 85 team, that we won 98 games and we went home. And the Mets were one series away from going to the World Series. And I think we came back in 86 determined to finish to get it done. And then Davey in spring training says, we're not only going to win, we're going to dominate. And I think that we responded to that. We were shocked, but I think it gave us that little push and we did dominate. So I think they're in the same spot right now. We came that close. We've got the same people back and added one of the best hitter in the game. Let's get it done.
How about favorite opening day memory for all of you? Your favorite opening day memory, whoever wants to go first.
Well, I have a weird one. 1998, the Mets opened in March for the first time, and it was 87 degrees at game time. And they played 14 innings, and by the time the game was over, the temperature was in the 50s. And Alberto Castillo got the game-winning hit in the bottom of the 14th inning, 1-0. That is my indelible opening day memory.
Mine is 85, Carter's game-winning home run opening day at Shea Stadium off the Cardinals, off Neil Allen, to win that game. I mean, what a splash for you make the big trade, and it's your first game at home in front of a full house. And then not only that, you hit it off Neil Allen. To me, that's a great memory.
Ron?
This is not on the field memory, but I remember the first time I got a chance to be announced on opening day at Shea Stadium. Have those 55,000 people there and be so excited. And I was next to Rusty Staub in the lineup on the field, right? Because of our numbers, you go by numbers. And I was 12 and he was 10, of course. And when they started playing the national anthem, Rusty could be strangely funny like this. He turned to me and said, "I always have a bad game when I hear this song." And it took me a couple of seconds to register, like, what he had just said. What? And he was just trying to make light of another opening day for Rusty. It was probably number 22 for him and number 1 for me. So he made me laugh on opening day on the field.
Rusty.
Opening day, just what opening day means to each one of you.
Well, the opening days when I was younger and not established was very nerve-wracking. And then once I got established, it was just like another game. Even though, the worst thing we always say was, if you go and open a season on a road trip, and you've got the first series, you got opening day. Then you go to the next town and it's opening day. Then you come home when it's opening day. You got 3 opening days. It's like enough of the opening days. We've had enough of them. And But it's it was just another game, and you always want to have a big day. It's exciting. You've got a full house of fans, and you want to have a big game. It is special and unique as far as the rest of the 161 of the season.
I wanted to ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's the start of the marathon. I mean, it's an important day, but it's the first of 162. Um, and I always get a little nervous before opening day, because the crowd's big, and you're coming out of spring training where the games are completely meaningless, and all of a sudden, oh, this actually matters. We're diving in. The other thing is that the Mets are the best team in history on opening day, which is rather amazing because they lost their first 8 opening day games. They won a World Series before they ever won an opening day game. But since then, they're like automatic. Although last year they didn't win opening day, so they're due to ring off about 10 opening day wins in a row.
I wanted to ask.
Serbs, as a player, I was always hoping for health. That's all I thought about kind of on opening day, unless I never pitched on opening day. So that's all I thought about. And in the booth, I'm with Gary. I get goosebumps on opening day. And it doesn't happen any other time of the year, but I do get a little goosebumps on opening day. The ceremony and everything kind of gets to me each and every time.
Ronnie's day is the second day.
That's right.
Second game of the season is Ron Darling Day.
Actually, it was Ronnie Dangerfield Day too.
Same. Right.
Just anybody thoughts on David Wright having his jersey retired and entering the Mets Hall of Fame in July? Whoever wants to take that, David Wright.
Well, Keith, you're up there in the pantheon, so you're the welcoming committee.
Yeah, he's deserving. David meant so much to the organization, and it's really. I remember when he got hit in the head against the Giants at Shea Stadium, and it changed everything for him. He was on such a rise. He was such a great player, both defensively and offensively, and a leader of that ball club. And he was the leader of that club, and I think it's great that he's up there, and I think he's very deserving, and I'm looking very much forward to that day.
The Mets have had a lot of great players, but most of their great players did not spend their entire career as Mets. And I think that the fact that David came in as a Met and went out as a Met and was a star from the day he arrived and had that incredible moment that finished his career, and every day in between, he was a mensch. And I think that Met fans appreciate him in a way that they have never appreciated any other player, because he's one of theirs. He was as impeccable a human being as you could ask for, and a really, really good player too. And I think that I think there are going to be a lot of people very much looking forward to that number going in the rafters. It's an incredibly special honor.
In the year 2045, you three will be entering your 40th year together. What are your thoughts on that?
Keith will be 91 then?
Yeah, going on 92.
Yeah.
Well, how have you guys managed 20 years together?
They haven't asked us to leave yet, so I guess it's going okay.
It's been very trying, trust me.
What would you say is the key to lasting? This is your 20th, you're entering your 20th year together. How did you guys do it? How have you done?
I think that when we got here, we all had no idea what we were doing. I was coming from radio. Keith had dabbled. Ronnie was basically a beginner. And we held hands in the dark and led each other, and it's worked out. And I think that to be serious, I think that what's amazing about this booth considering that you have a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame in Keith and one of the best pitchers in Mets history in Ronnie, is that there is absolutely no ego. None. None of us needs to have the microphone. None of us needs to be on camera. We all allow the others to shine. And we have a great producer in Greg Picker who has been with us every step of the way and prods us to be better every day. And I mean, to me, that's just the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, and Keith takes care of the hitting, and Ron takes care of the pitching, and Gary, you're the point guard, I guess, right?
I try to stay out of the way.
Well, anyway, congratulations on entering your 20th year. Hope to see you guys for another 20, and thanks again for your time.
I have one
Thanks,
question.
sir.
I have one question for you.
Yeah.
All those rumors about you and Richard Todd, are they true?
Who?
Richard Todd?
Who?
What?
I'm afraid they are true. Yes.
I don't even know the rumor. That's how stealth it is.
Richard and I had a little altercation when I covered the Jets way back when.
Let's just say that Serbs might have been stuffed into a locker at some point.
Yeah, I look. Let's put it this way: I attacked his right hand with my neck.
I thought Keith was alluding to a different relationship. I didn't know where he was going with that.
No. But anyway, guys, thanks a million. You guys are the best. I appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
I'll see you down
Thanks,
the road.
Dave.